1 week from tonight, Donald Trump is going to be president of the United States, but it almost didn't happen. And over the last 6 months, whether we like it or not, we've seen a calculated, sophisticated cover-up from the FBI and the Secret Service. And I'm calling it a cover-up because there is no other way to describe what we've witnessed over the last 6 months. If I say the name Luigi Mangione, I'm pretty sure that people know exactly who I'm talking about. But if I say the name Thomas Matthew Crooks, I bet very few people remember who that is, which is very odd to me because 6 months ago today, Thomas Matthew Crooks almost killed Donald Trump. Take a look.
It's a little bit old, that chart. That chart's a couple of months old, and if you want to really see something that's said, take a look at what happened. Watch out. Wait.
That was July 13th, 6 months ago to the day, when a 20-year-old assassin named Thomas Matthew Crooks was somehow able to climb onto the roof of the AGR building at a Trump rally at the Butler Farm showground and fire 8 shots in 6 seconds from a high-powered rifle at the former president before a Secret Service sniper silenced him forever. And yet today, we know next to nothing about what really happened that day in Butler, Pennsylvania, or why Thomas Matthew Crooks wanted to kill Donald Trump. And maybe there's a reason for that. The intelligence community even has a name for it. It's called memory holing, and it's defined as the deliberate removal or alteration of information that's considered embarrassing or inconvenient. And that's an interesting way to characterize something. Information that's considered embarrassing is memory hold. Again, this happened 6 months ago. It wasn't 60 years ago. But for some reason, what really happened that day remains a mystery. The public seems to know more about Shansu Sinzabar, the New Orleans terrorist, and Luigi Mangione than they do about a man who tried to kill Donald Trump. And that's not speculation. That's a fact. That's where we are. Just days after the attack in New Orleans, a New York Post reporter was allowed into the home of Shansu Sinzabar and gave a guided tour to the public on video. And hours after the CEO of United Healthcare was shot in New York City, we had video of the assassin's high school graduation. But somehow, Thomas Matthew Crooks comes within an inch or less of ending Donald Trump's life, and the case ran cold. Why is that? How is that? And why isn't anyone else asking these questions? Did you see this mentioned anywhere else today? It almost doesn't seem possible, does it? And why was Donald Trump allowed to take that stage that day? According to multiple reports, Thomas Matthew Crooks was spotted on the roof up to 19 minutes before Trump took the stage. So why was he allowed out there? Take a look.
Nobody said there was a problem. And I would have waited for 15. They could have said, let's wait for 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 5 minutes, something. Nobody said, I think that was a mistake. How did somebody get on that roof? And why wasn't he reported? Because people saw that he was on the roof. And then other people said, there's a man on the roof who's got a gun. And that was quite a bit before I walked onto the stage. So you would have thought somebody would have done something about it.
Those are all questions that were never answered. And as summer turned into fall and Joe Biden dropped out of the race, and as the investigation kind of faded from the headlines, the other networks were all too happy to forget about it. Memory hold even, perhaps deliberately. So here we are now 6 months later, and we know more about Lee Harvey Oswald than we do about Thomas Matthew Crooks. Lee Harvey Oswald, who allegedly killed John F. Kennedy 62 years ago. And again, I use that word, allegedly, deliberately, because I don't think Oswald did it. And if he did do it, I sure as heck don't think he acted alone, and I'm not alone. According to a poll conducted 2 years ago to mark the 60th anniversary of the Kennedy assassination, 65% of Americans said they do not believe that Lee Harvey Oswald acted alone, which could explain why Oswald, just before he was murdered himself at Dallas Police Headquarters, told the world that he had nothing to do with the Kennedy assassination and that he was just a patsy.
I'd like some legal representation. These police officers have not allowed me to have any. I don't know what this is all about.
Kill the president?
No, sir, I didn't. People keep asking me that. Sir?
You shoot the president?
I work in that building.
Were you in the building at the time?
Naturally, if I work in that building, yes, sir.
Now, why would Oswald say that? Why in that moment did he use the word patsy? Sadly, those questions were never answered in a public trial because a public trial never happened. And that's because Lee Harvey Oswald was shot and killed at Dallas Police Headquarters 2 days later by a nightclub owner named Jack Ruby. It was all on TV. And just like the rumors surrounding the death of Jeffrey Epstein, there are lingering rumors today, all these years later, about what happened in Dallas. And there are lingering rumors 6 months later about what happened in Butler. But here's a question. Was Thomas Matthew Crooks a patsy? Was Thomas Matthew Crooks a fall guy for some larger conspiracy? It's a question that no one is asking, but it's a question that does need to be answered. So who is Thomas Matthew Crooks? Well, here's what we know right now. And why did he kill the president? And why is the FBI and the Secret Service hiding that basic information from the public? Were the failures that day preventable, or were they intentional? And if Donald Trump did die that day, thankfully he did not, would we know anything else today, or would we know exactly the same information? Again, all questions that we should have access to and answers to. Thomas Matthew Crooks grew up in Pennsylvania. He went to Bethel Park High School. He even tried to join the rifle club there, but he didn't make it. He was bullied. He apparently had terrible body odor. He graduated with high honors. He was a loner. We've been told that many times, like Lee Harvey Oswald, to the point where the first time I saw his picture that day, I said to myself, now that's the face of a guy who tries to kill the president.
He sat by himself, didn't talk to anyone, didn't even try to make conversation. So it was just kind of odd. He was an odd kid, but I didn't have any issues with him or anything.
According to the FBI, he'd never been arrested. He wasn't on their radar. The Secret Service also claims that he did not have any digital footprint, that he didn't leave any what they call digital dust behind, which is, again, very odd for a 20-year-old in 2024 not to have a social media presence. It's also very strange for a 20-year-old not to have an online footprint. It's almost like young Thomas was a ghost, meant to be a ghost, a loner with body odor, with no Facebook page. He didn't even have a LinkedIn page. The perfect profile for a patsy. Now, I'm not saying that's what's going on here, but when the Secret Service and the FBI don't have answers to those basic questions 6 months later, it becomes JFK and Jack Ruby and Lee Harvey Oswald in Dallas all over again. On the day of the rally, Thomas Matthew Crooks was able to walk a 5-foot ladder into the rally. He was also able to leave the rally and go to a store and buy ammunition and then come back to the rally at around 3:35 in the afternoon. At 3:50 p.m., Crooks was able to fly a drone over the rally for 11 minutes. At 4:26 p.m., a local police officer who had just gotten off duty texted colleagues about Crooks standing near the AGR building. At 5:14 p.m., Secret Service counter-snipers saw Crooks and took his photograph. He was also seen with a rangefinder, which is used to judge the distance between shooter and target. At 6:06 p.m., Thomas Matthew Crooks was able to climb onto the roof of the ARG building without any interference. 2 minutes later, at 6:08 p.m., a police officer attempted to climb up to the roof of that building as well, but Crooks turned around, aimed his rifle at the officer, so the officer jumped down. At 6:11 p.m., Thomas Matthew Crooks opened fire, and 2 minutes later, 6:13 p.m., Thomas Matthew Crooks was dead. The Secret Service also found a homemade bomb in his car and bomb-making material at his house. And according to Texas Congressman Mike McCall, his plan was to assassinate the president and try to create a diversion by blowing up his car on the other side of the property so then he could escape. Crooks also had a transmitter next to him, which the FBI claims was connected to the bomb that was in his car. Back to Lee Harvey Oswald for a moment. The FBI and the CIA were both well aware of Lee Harvey Oswald before he shot Kennedy in 1963. In fact, an FBI agent interviewed Oswald 2 weeks before Kennedy was killed. Coincidence? Do you find that odd? According to the Gateway pundit, cell phone data found someone who regularly visited Crooks's home also visited a building in Washington, D.C. near FBI headquarters. So someone went to Thomas Matthew Crooks's house and also went to FBI headquarters in Washington. Is that just a wild and crazy coincidence? I doubt that very much. But why don't we have an answer to that question? In October, Donald Trump returned to Butler, Pennsylvania, a brave move. He said he wanted to finish his speech and honor firefighter Corey Compentori, who was killed that day protecting his wife and his daughter. Take a look.
And as I was saying, of course, there's one more hero who could not make it back here tonight because he is no longer with us, right? You know who that is, right? Corey, our beautiful Corey. Corey is not with us tonight, and he should be. And we all miss him. He's become somewhat of a folk hero, I have to tell you.
115 days later, Donald Trump would win the election. And if you believe in divine intervention, which I do, something was there with Donald Trump that day, protecting him. If he doesn't turn his head slightly to the right, he is not president today. And the future ends on that day in Butler, which could have been another Dallas, but in many ways feels like another Dallas, even though Donald Trump survived.